Hi, guys. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Laura, and I am the host of the That's Where I'm At podcast. I started this podcast because I wanted to talk about stories that women don't talk about. Um, it can be many things that maybe society tells us we shouldn't talk about it. Maybe we think after a period of time we should be done talking about it. And I feel like women are being quiet and slowly dying inside. And I say that because that's what was happening to me. And I want to tell you my story today. I'm not going to apologize for crying during it. It's really important for me to get my story out because I know that I'm not the only person out there that went through a divorce, and even more than that, now that I've gone through a lot more therapy and I see things from the other side of the divorce. So, we're going to talk about those things today. And I want to talk about what kind of support I got um, after the divorce and where I'm at. So, I hope you will, I'll hope you'll find some nuggets in here to help you. And so I'm going to tell you my story. And if this resonates with you at all, I hope you'll go to social media and comment on the picture of me from this episode. So, my ex husband and I were together for 33 years. We got divorced last year, about 9 months ago. And it was it was weird. I never thought I would be in a place like that, but there were a lot of times, especially in the last 3 years or so of our marriage, where I really felt like it was bad. And I don't ever mean physically bad, I mean mentally bad. I don't feel like he was supportive. I didn't feel towards the end that he was supportive, he was anything like that. And so it was really hard to want to continue with the marriage, but that's just something that I always thought we had always talked about, that that's what we were going to do. We were going to stay married forever. It was just something that we had talked about. And we had gone to therapy over the years and things like that. And so it was something that I thought we were committed to working out any of our issues. Well, I don't want to just generalize the pandemic, but in the pandemic, there were some issues that happened in our family. The for in our family, we lost my mom and my sister-in-law, and that really affected my mental health. And even though I was already seeing a therapist, it was really, really hard. Losing your mom is hard. We went right into the pandemic after she passed away. So we were all isolated. And even though I was home with my husband and my two kids, it was isolating. And being in the pandemic, I just want to paint a picture of what it felt like. I'm an introvert with extrovert qualities, and so I was kind of glad to not have to go out, but we've never been in a worldwide pandemic, have we? And so it was overwhelming, to say the least, anxiety ridden, things like that. And so those are some things that I was dealing with. So I just wanted to put that in there, and maybe I'll remember to talk about that a little bit more later. So how we got to the divorce and to the That's Where I'm At podcast is I'm going to tell you the story. So how did I get here? I grew up, in a loving home. We had our issues like anybody else. but I knew my parents loved me, but I had, always an insecurity. I felt awkward. I just wanted to be loved. And so I've had a few boyfriends, and I just I just always wanted to be loved. So when I went to college, I actually followed my high school boyfriend to college. And at some point, and I don't even remember the circumstances for that. So I'm not even going to really get too far into that, other than I think we didn't agree on some things, and so we decided not to get married. We were engaged for a few years, and we decided not to get married. So I'm single, and my ex-husband is single, and we had been friends for a few years in college, and I enjoyed having him around, and we were both single, and so we decided to go on a date. And we were both kind of like, oh, well, you're cute and you're cute, and I never thought of you that way before. And so we decided to go on a date, and we were together really ever since that. We've had a few ups and downs at the beginning of our relationship when we were dating, but and you break up here and there, that kind of thing. But really, I always say we were together 33 years. We're not going to quibble over a few months. So, that's kind of the things that wanting to be loved and all that, and coming out of a 5-year relationship that was hard. And so I think with my ex, when he paid so much attention to me, and said he loved me and all those things, 22-year-old, let's see, yeah, 22-year-old Laura believed him, right? Because I didn't know any better and all those things. So I didn't know to look for any signs of any issues. I didn't consider those things. I'm also very trusting, which I don't think is a bad thing in and of itself, but I do think sometimes it clouded my judgment for people. But I am trusting to a fault, but I am trusting until you burn me, and then you got to win my trust back. So that's, I think that's pretty normal and healthy. So we got married, and everything from what I remember was great. And I don't remember exactly when things started to be a problem, but I know that as I'm looking back, there were signs there that I didn't know were issues for what I'm going to call narcissism and gaslighting. So, narcissism is a person who has an excessive interest in or admiration of themselves. So, many of our fights were often, because I would sarcastically say that, oh, okay, this is the part of the fight where you tell me what I did wrong. Even though I had maybe approached him and said, I didn't like the way you talked to me, or whatever issue it was, he would turn it around and make it about me. So nothing ever felt really good enough. And so that was really hard. The statement I heard often was, I wouldn't have done it that way. And I would even say to him, I just remember these saying to him over the years, every time you say, I wouldn't have done it that way, is just like, why can't you ever just try and see it my way? And I never felt like, because I did say this, I never felt like he was on my side. And, he would tell me, well, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. Now, in general, let me tell you, because that's why it's hard to tell this story, because emotional abuse is not always visible. There's not bruises on my body, but as a person, we're going to get into that, but as a person, you just start to feel devalued, and you start to feel less than, and your self-esteem is being slowly eroded away. And so that's why it's hard to really share this, because when you break down little things, and he would always say, I wouldn't have done it that way, or I'm just playing devil's advocate, things like that, those things don't sound terrible. But when you hear them constantly over a long period of time, it's exhausting. And when I would say, why can't you be on my side, or why can't you look at it from my point of view, kind of thing. He would say, it shouldn't matter what I say to you. You should have enough self-esteem that no matter what I say to you, you will feel good about yourself. And that's part of the manipulation. And I said, I would remember saying, well, yeah, but I just want you to be nice to me anyway and say nice things to me anyway. I'm a woman of faith, and I often would say to God, I just want my husband to like me. I don't think that I'm asking for too much to have I know he loves me, but I don't think he likes me. And that's something that I felt really sad about often. So, some signs that I ignored were those kinds of things. I wouldn't have done it that way. I'm just playing devil's advocate and never on my side, never on my side. Always saying that, forgive me for saying always, but often saying that I was walking in front of somebody, I was in the way, and everybody at the restaurant was so embarrassed by you because you were so loud. He would literally use the word everyone. We would come home from a party, we'd get in the car, and he would tell me what I did wrong. And all those things eroded my self-confidence. There were many times that I worked on myself. I listened to, videos and eventually podcasts, and read books and listened to audiobooks, and prayed and talked to people and did Bible studies and listen to how much God loves me and all those things. And they're all important. But this nagging feeling was, but my husband doesn't like me. And that was hard for me. So I started to figure out the gaslighting the last year or so of our marriage. And I said, oh, I'm dealing with narcissism and gaslighting. I don't remember what happened. I've been in intensive therapy for about 7 years with some crazy life situations that we've had. And so I've been in a lot of therapy because I also felt like I was going crazy. I felt like every single thing that I did or that I said was turned around on me, manipulated. There was one year he said that I didn't deserve Christmas presents because I didn't have any presents under the tree other than like from when I was a speech therapist in the school district. Maybe some of my kids gave me a present or a teacher. And so I would save them so I could put them under the tree. So I would have presents to open. When our grown kids were living with us, they would get me a couple of things. But it was always that, well, I'm not good at giving presents and you always complain about them, which I never did. But he would say that I would complain about them. And so what he would tell me is that I'm not going to get you presents then. And so he didn't. One year he told me that I didn't deserve Christmas presents. And so I had a therapy notebook and I ran into the bedroom immediately so that I could write it down. And it doesn't matter if you write it down, doesn't matter if you have text messages of words they said. It doesn't matter because they will say that they didn't say that. And he said that too. When I brought it up at some point in therapy, or maybe we were having a fight, he told me he didn't say that. And I said, yes, you did. I walked immediately into the bedroom so I wouldn't forget what you said and grabbed my therapy notebook and wrote it down. And he said, no, I wouldn't have said that. But I'm thinking, even pretend like he didn't say that. I still didn't have Christmas presents under the tree. So doesn't matter if he said it or not. There weren't any presents there because he didn't think I deserved them. And actually, he just didn't want to try. It's part of what's called devaluing. At some point, they're going to make you feel less than, and that you don't want to be there, or you're going insane, things like that. That was one of the things that didn't make sense to me, was the way I was treated, and then to say that, yes, I want to work on our marriage. It didn't make sense, because they'll throw you a bone every once in a while, because the next year for Christmas, I'd been wanting a Cracker Barrel rocking chair forever, and I got one. And it was one of the first things I sold when I left him. It was great. I'm going to get a Cracker Barrel rocking chair, but I'm not going to have the one he gave me. I'll tell you that much. So, at this time I'm figuring out the gaslighting, and the other thing that was a problem in our marriage was the flirting with women. This was not a new thing. This is from what his own admission, that he's often been a flirty guy with everyone. All his girlfriends, growing up and all that would say he flirts too much and all these things. And it was exhausting. I don't know that he physically cheated on me, but he did way too much flirting in front of me. And he groomed his next fiance, his next girlfriend in front of me. And so it was very much of the, well, if you won't give it to me, then I will get it somewhere else. And what he said he meant by that was that he would find somebody else to go kayaking with, or he'd find somebody else to go hiking with, and things like that, which I would do those things with him, but not to the extent that his current girlfriend will. And so he would tell me, well, you don't want to, so I'm going to ask somebody else. But it would never be men that he would ask, it would only be women. And so that was really hard. And whenever we were out with who is now his current fiance, he would tell me, or he would flirt with her in front of me. In fact, I know now it was grooming. He groomed her right in front of my face because I was so manipulated and so brainwashed that I didn't see it and I allowed it. And we would come home and I would say, you just flirt way too much with her. You have to stop. He'd be like, oh, baby, I'm so sorry. You can trust me. Nothing's happening. Nothing's going on. And I'd say, but I still don't like it. Oh, I'm so sorry. And there was another woman before that, years before that, that we went to therapy over, and he stopped being friends with her completely. And he would bring it up occasionally and say, like, well, you made me stop being friends with so and so. And I said, no, I don't need you to stop being friends with her. I just didn't want you to have sex with her. That's all I'm asking. And it's those kinds of things, the manipulation, the making me feel like I was the problem because you made me stop being friends with this woman. And it's like, yeah, but I just didn't want you flirting with her all the time in front of me. I just didn't think that was so much to ask. I thought it was very disrespectful. And that's not what I was willing to deal with. But I was still also not strong enough to leave until I was. So, through the years, how I abandoned who I was as a person is I became very quiet. And if anyone knows me, I am not a quiet person. Okay, I'm not quiet. I laugh loudly. I love loudly. I know when it's appropriate to be quiet, of course, but. And oh my gosh, I can't believe I just said that because like I have to justify myself. Okay, I'm not, you know what? I don't have to justify myself. And one of my friends, I wish I could remember the exact words she said, but she said, you're not too loud. You're not loud. You have a joy for life. And I thought that was really great because I've always felt like I was really happy. And, but I went through, like everyone does, a time, well, not everyone, I'm sorry for saying that, but I went through a period of time where I felt less than, I was insecure, all those things. And laughter is one of the things. I grew up around laughter. My parents are goofy. These are things that, I grew up in a house where we laughed, and that's just the way it is. So I also abandoned myself with allowing him to flirt with multiple women in front of me, be friends with women in front of me, continuously after I said, please don't, do certain things with women. He would do it anyway and then apologize and say that I was being too rigid or difficult, or if I was only more whatever, then he wouldn't have to. And again, you have to remember a lot of these things in and of itself don't seem terrible, but put them all together over a period of time where there's manipulation and gaslighting and brainwashing, you don't realize where you are in your head and how, I felt like I was the one who was the problem because that's how you're treated. So one of the things that I also did was I tried harder. I did more praying and more therapy and read more books and had my friends praying for him and tried and tried and tried and tried and tried. And we did marriage counseling multiple times, and it was always my fault. If only I would change certain things, he wouldn't be the way he is. And no one really, he's okay. The thing is, if you ever met him, you would say he's the nicest guy ever. I have not had anyone say anything other than that to me about him. And I would always say to my friends, like when I would see them later, they'd say, "Oh, he's so nice." And I'd say, he wouldn't have it any other way. He wants you to think he's nice because he can do that. And I know that this is really a psychological issue for him, for people who are considered narcissists, but that you have that much control to be nice to the public and then not nice at home is pretty talented. He's pretty talented for doing that. That's a lot of talent. So I always thought it would get better too, because we both said it. We were in it for the long haul. We both said that, and we would always talk about, well, we need to go to marriage counseling because we can't seem to come to a resolution over certain things. Which, I mean, the dumbest things. Like we went to therapy over avocados one time because I bought an entire bag of avocados from Costco, and because they're all going to ripen at the same time. Then he had a laundry list of all the things I didn't care about because I bought 6 avocados that were going to ripen at the same time. I didn't care about the budget. I didn't care about the household. I didn't care about his feelings. I didn't care about lots of things. And I just was like, are you kidding me right now? And so, yes, I used to hide avocados around the house. I'd buy them and then hide them around the house so that I could, we'd have 2 out at a time, and then I'd bring out another one here and there. But listen, it's not about avocados, okay? And you can think that story is ridiculous because I think it's hilarious when I tell it because it's so ridiculous. It's not about avocados. It's about control. It's about devaluing. It's about manipulation to say, it didn't matter what I bought. It didn't matter what I did. It didn't matter if I did exactly what he wanted. It was wrong somehow. It was all part of the devaluing. For as much thought and effort goes into this, that emotional abuse, they're not strong enough to say, I want out and I'm going to leave. They do it the coward way. They groom their next girlfriend on the side. They might actually cheat, so that way you say, oh, we're done, that kind of thing. So it's exhausting. It would really, thinking back, it's exhausting. Telling this story is exhausting, but it's important because if this is resonating with you, there's an issue. It's time to look into what's going on. So in 2022, we decided to do marriage counseling one more time. I had been in marriage counseling. I'm sorry. I had been in individual counseling for a while since my sister-in-law died. And before that, my mom dying. And just in the last 7 years, I'd been in marriage counseling. And so we decided to give marriage counseling one more try because I really wanted to leave. In fact, I had called a friend and said, do you have room for me to come stay with you for a few weeks, like maybe a week, so that I can send a message? I wanted to just leave and say, things need to change or I'm gone. I'm leaving. And I just wasn't strong enough. I wasn't brave enough to do that. I talked to my therapist about that a couple months in a row and said, I didn't leave this month. And she would never shame me. She would say, okay, well, let's see what we need to do next. And how are you feeling? And all those things. And that was, I wish I would have been stronger, but I'm not going to beat myself up about shoulda, coulda, wouldas. I am not going to beat myself up about that. And you shouldn't beat yourself up either for what you've done or not done, and how long you stayed and all those things, because I know that I did everything I could on my end to save the marriage. I know I did. I can sleep at night knowing I did everything that I should have done. So we went to marriage counseling. We did it over Zoom. Of course, that really isn't important, but that was nice that we were able to do it over Zoom. And I felt gaslit the entire time. And the marriage counselor at one point told me that he was very handsome. And what was I complaining about? Uh-huh. So now I'm being gaslit by the therapist too. That's fun. That's because he was so nice and so kind and so charming that even sitting in marriage counseling with a trained professional, they didn't see it. So when I would say things I didn't know how to say, I think I'm being gaslit and this is what's happening. I didn't know that until one day I woke up and saw it. But then by then I was done. So I remember sitting in marriage counseling and him and the therapist, well, he started in on saying how he was really worried about me. And that's what they do. They make sure that other people know that there's something wrong with Laura. She's really like going crazy. She's not feeling good. She's acting erratic. So it's like, wow, now we're telling the entire world that I'm crazy, And that's like, I don't know. That would, to me, I threw what I call a toddler fit in that room while we were having Zoom with the counselor. I threw an entire fit. And at the end of this, I said I was sick of being told that I was the only one who has a problem. And I feel like you guys are gaslighting me and all this stuff. And she did not respond to that. They both said that I should probably go on some medication, etc., and that I should talk to my individual counselor. I did talk to my individual counselor, and she said, yeah, that person doesn't have the right to tell you that because she doesn't see you individually. And that doesn't seem kind and it doesn't seem helpful. And my individual counselor was not worried about my mental health because you're allowed to have a breakdown. And I think by then I really started realizing that I'm being gaslit and this is not okay. And to be gaslit by a therapist is ridiculous. And yes, I have reached out to her since then. So one of the things I learned in marriage counseling is that when I would say, this is what I need, and she would say, you have been infinitely clear with him what you need. So now you have to decide, is he unwilling or is he unable to do those things? And I agreed that he was unwilling to do those things, to do the things I needed, which is I had gotten it down to the very, very basic. And that's a really big red flag that when you have to ask for your basic wants and needs, I'm talking basic, that I would be talked to with respect, that I would be treated kindly, that I would, when he walks in the door, that he would even care that I'm there and I exist, that he would acknowledge me, that he would invite me places. But I'm talking about basic wants and needs. He would just be like, okay, I'm going out, bye. Or he'd cook himself things and not cook me anything. He would get himself a drink and not get me anything. So it's like I didn't exist. And that is part of the manipulation to make you not want to be there anymore. So I realized that he was unwilling. So I started to see that I was never happy. I was never happy except when he wasn't around. And I also wanted I wanted to die. I didn't want to kill myself, but I did want to die. And I wanted to check myself. If I didn't, and I mostly wanted to just disappear from the world because then I could just, if I could disappear, then I wouldn't have this pain anymore of him not even caring that I lived or died. So the other option that I thought about was I wanted to check myself into a mental facility. And so I was talking to my therapist about that, and she wasn't concerned because I didn't have a plan for suicide or anything. I don't think I wanted to commit suicide. I think I just wanted to be done with the pain. I wanted to be done with the pain. Asking somebody for your basic wants and needs, your basic human needs, is hard. All I ever said was, God, I just want my husband to like me. And somewhere along the way, he stopped liking me. I know that I'm only telling my side of the story. And it's not like I've never done anything wrong. But we'll get to that. We'll get to emotional abuse in a second. Somewhere I'm at now is in August 13th. We decided to August 13th of 2022, because you'll be hearing this after August 13th of 2023. So, on August 13th, he came into the living room and he was getting ready to go do something. I don't know what it was, but he was getting ready to leave again and not take me with him. And I remember sitting on the couch and being so depressed that he was going again, that he wouldn't try anything. He was unwilling. And why wasn't I strong enough to leave? My friend said I could stay at her house for a week, so to send a message that I wanted him to change or be done. And my therapist asked me, will he come after you? And I don't mean that in a negative way, like, will he come hurt me? She meant, will he come after you? Like, will he chase after you? And I said, no, he won't. She said, okay, well, that's something to consider too. I know for a fact he never would have, because that was a fight in our marriage, that I never felt like he was on my side. And he never, I would tell him, I said, you would never fight for me. And he would say, well, I don't fight. I'm not a violent person. So that's part of the manipulation as well, that I don't actually mean a fist fight. I mean just fighting for me in general. And so that's part of the manipulation, is they twist your words and things like that. So on August 13th, we decided, he said, well, he came into the living room and he said, if this is the way our marriage is going to be, maybe you should tell me if you're done. And I said, why do I have to tell you that I am the one who's done? And he said, you know what? You're right. I'm just too big a pussy to do it. And I said, okay, I'm done. And right before that, actually, what I said, I started to talk and say, I think I remember him saying, like, I can't be certain, but I think I remember him saying, do you think we could work it out? And I said, I started to explain, I think we could work it out if, and I was going to say what I needed. And I remember my therapist saying to me in therapy just that last week, you have been infinitely clear with him what you need from him, and he's either unwilling or he's unable. And I didn't want to ask one more time for the things I'd been saying for years. And so I was halfway through my sentence and I said, no, I'm done. And I stood up and I left the room, and I didn't talk to him for 2 days. So I briefly talked to him the next day because we had planned to go to a concert with friends. My sister, my brother, and some friends. And so I kind of had to talk to him about that. I don't know why he came. It would have been okay. I think he still wanted to keep up appearances. He told me we don't need to tell anybody. I was still in a stage where I'm like, no, we're not going to announce it. We're not going to put it on Facebook, any of those things. We wanted to, like, we'll do it after we're divorced. And so we kind of agreed to that. So the next day I was going to tell my sister and brother and my dad that Monday. Well, we decided on a Saturday that we were going to get divorced, and Sunday was when we went to the concert. I'm almost sure it was a Sunday. We went to the concert, and afterwards my sister tells me that my brother said there's something wrong and we need to intervene, and which still to this day just like warms my heart that they knew and they cared, because I think I hid it pretty well for so long. And So Monday morning, my sister calls me and said, "Is there something wrong? Because you guys look like there's something wrong." And I said, "Well, yeah, we decided last night to get a divorce. Or not last night, the night before to get a divorce. I was going to tell you, but you beat me to it." So we had also, he had called the kids. We have three grown kids, and he had called the kids because he wanted them to know, or we sorry, we wanted them to know. But I was so mortified, I was so humiliated, I was so embarrassed that this is what we were choosing to do, that I could just be in the room. But he called them and he said, "Just wanted to let you guys know that we're getting a divorce, and we don't have details right now, we don't want to talk more about it, but we'll talk to you guys more later." And they were all okay with that information. And that was really hard. That was really hard to do. I felt like I was letting my kids down. I really did. Even though now I'm so glad I left, or at that time I remember the pain of feeling like I disappointed them. So we got divorced September 30th. We went through mediation and we zoomed through our divorce. Nevada is a, I guess, no fault state, so you divide everything 50-50. We didn't have anything to do other than to divide everything 50-50. And so it was easy enough. We don't have businesses we share or anything like that. And so it was very easy to do that. In Nevada, it's very easy to get married, very easy to get divorced, not so easy to be married and stay married. So, though we did it for 32 years, we were together 33, but we were married 32. And I'm very proud of that because I know that I did all I could on my end. So, in December of in December of 2022, so a couple months, let's see, about 3 months, almost 3 months to the day, I found out about his quote unquote new girlfriend. She was a mutual friend of ours that was always hanging around and was the fight of many, it was the subject of our fights for a long time. He was she was the one that was being groomed right in front of me to take my place. And they had posted on Facebook, and I am not, I told my ex that I was going to unfriend him, and I unfriended all of his family and told them, "Thank you for being great in laws, and I wish you nothing but the best for the future." I wrote them all a card and said that. I don't want to. I told him, I said, "I know you will end up with her because you've been so blatantly obvious in front of my face that it's not okay. And I know you guys will end up together." And to, I'm telling you, even when I caught him in a lie, he said, "No, no, we're just friends. We're just friends. We're just friends. We're just friends." So he was denying it till the end of time. He would probably deny it now. So he was denying it till the end of time. And I didn't want to see it happen. So I unfriended him on social media, and I unfriended all of our mutual friends that were not my friends. I knew there were some friends, I knew there were friends that were really my friends that would be there. And then his friends would be on his side, I guess you want to call it, because many of his friends he knew from when he worked with her because they were coworkers. And so I knew that they would be on his side and her side, and they would celebrate their love because they watched it happening in front of their eyes for so long. Because, yeah. So anyway, he made it happen, and made it seem like it was okay. Because frankly, when I saw the picture of them together, it was only by accident because someone told me that they were together. But they had been together since we got divorced, and because she was being groomed from the beginning, so she was there waiting in the wings. And I didn't know for 3 months, but everyone else did. He introduced her to our children, and they did lots of fun things together. And he went on with his life. He took her out from behind the curtain and paraded her around. And I think he knew that he didn't. Well, and I have no idea if they posted on social media or anything, because, from what I understand, they didn't until they announced that they were together in December. Because that looks better, rather than to say that the night that we got divorced, they were together. Um, and so that was, I lived in what I call blissful ignorance for 3 months. And that, after that, yeah, I felt like I lost it. And as far as I was furious because everything that I thought was real started crashing down around me. And now I have really learned what's a narcissist, what has he been doing to me, what happened to me these last 33 years. He's been lying. And so this person that who I thought he was, I thought we just grew apart in our marriage and we were going to go off and heal and maybe they'd end up together, but I guess then my eyes were opened that, oh, they've he was grooming her. And none of this stuff I realized until after the fact. Yes, she's an adult and made her own decision and knew exactly what she was doing. But so was I. And the thing is that it happened to me. So I have empathy for her because it's happening to her. They're rushing to the altar, which is what we did. We rushed to the altar because we had both been in relationships. And so since we had been in relationships, we wanted to get engaged and get married right away. We wanted to start our life together. And so I'm um sort of embarrassed to say that we also did rush to the altar, just like he's doing now, because they usually rush you to the altar so that they can lock you down before you realize that, before the mask falls off or before you realize what's happening. And then getting married now is the ultimate way for him to show that he was not the problem, that I was the problem, and that he was the great guy who can actually get somebody else and can be married. But I was the problem. And so that is why they get married so fast, or why they have someone waiting in the wings, that look, I was able to find a partner right away. I was able to date somebody right away. I'm not the problem. Laura is the problem, but he's been grooming her on the side. So I've been healing and doing therapy and lots of other things, but there's been a grooming happening. These are red flags, okay? These are red flags. 2023 Laura would not have allowed some of the things that happened right in front of my face. But 2022 Laura didn't know any better. And so we have to have empathy for ourselves when we didn't know any better. I am sympathetic to that person, to that Laura who didn't know any better, because when she knew better, she ran out the door. Okay? I ran out the door because I said to my therapist, why did I stay so long? And she said, look, the minute you figured out what was happening, you ran out the door. And I said, okay, because I was thinking I just stayed too long and all those things that people maybe make you feel like you did. Maybe you stayed too long. Why'd you stay so long? Well, I didn't know what was happening. And really, that is not a question to ask anybody. That is not a question to ask someone who's being abused or who was abused. That's not an appropriate question. That's really victim shaming. And that was hard for me to reconcile because I really did feel ashamed that I stayed for so long. But then I'm very proud of myself for leaving and saving myself and saving my kids, as far as we are doing so much healing from understanding what happened, because they were affected as well. I'm learning so much about how they felt now that they're grown, about how they felt, what they saw in their life about me and their dad. I'm learning the things that they saw that they didn't know was wrong, or so we've had discussions about that. And I love that I can have a discussion with my grown children and apologize. There is such, oh my gosh, the healing you can have to apologize to your children for saying, I didn't know. I'm so sorry that happened. To go back in time, I would think of things and say, you know what? This happened when you were this age. It came to my mind. I want to apologize for that happening. I want to apologize for the time I screamed at you, for the times that whatever. I took ownership of what I did. I was really unhealthy, and that's but that's still not an excuse. I wanted to apologize because they were hurt by that. And there's been so much healing with my children with that. So, whether it was healthy or unhealthy, we're going to go that it was unhealthy. I called him out on social media, and all I did was actually provide facts that I just did a couple of social media things saying that, my ex husband said I could trust him with our friend. And I always told him I didn't trust him, and now he's dating her. So I just said those kinds of things. He didn't like that. I, may have lost more friends with that. I know some of his friends who were sneakily watching some of my reels and things like that. They not only unfriended me, they blocked me, which was fine, and that's okay with me because I went to unfriend a few people and it's like they were already gone and they were blocked. So because if you can't find them, that usually means they're blocked. But one of the things that I learned was I had so many women coming to me saying, "Me too. This happened to me. Oh, that's happening to me right now. I don't know what to do." So being able to help women, and also, look, I'm not a trained professional. I am not a trained therapist. I am not a doctor. Okay. I have been to a lot of years of therapy and I have read a lot of books. And so I'm going also from my own experience and what I know from my own experience. So please do your own research, but listen to what I'm saying because when someone says they were emotionally abused, it is not our job to say, well, let me consider that and let me look it up and see if you really were. Even on some of these sites that I follow about narcissism, they say you don't have to keep looking to see if your ex was a narcissist. Just know that if he was abusing you emotionally, or if you were being manipulated, those things, you don't need to put a name to it. You just need to be done. And I'm safe now. So that's the thing for me is I feel safe. I live in this world and don't walk around feeling unsafe that everything I do is wrong. So I didn't feel alone when I could talk to people that would say, this is happening to me or this did happen to me. I had a lot of encouragement from friends saying, Laura, this is my second husband. My first husband was abusive. My second husband, I've been with him 25 years and this is the best relationship I've had in my life and he's loving and all that. So there's hope. There's a lot of hope. So when I was doing some wellness coaching with a friend, oftentimes I would say, she would ask me about, how I was doing. Did anything happen with my ex and things like that? Because she knew him. And I would kind of give her an update on how I was feeling. And I would say, and then that's where I'm at. And I stopped one day and I said, wait, I think there's something there. That's where I'm at. We don't have to be all the way through our story to be able to share our story. Where I am after 9 months post divorce is not where I'm going to be in a year. It's not even going to be where I am in 3 months. I know that it's going to be hard in September when they get married. I know that those things are going to be hard. I know that I spent 33 years with somebody and I am still healing from that. My children are still healing from that. We're still grieving the loss of our marriage. The loss of our family. They're grieving that their parents are no longer together. And they're also grieving the things they see their dad do because he doesn't seem like the same person. And they heard me complain and cry about this woman for 7 years. And so they know who she is and they are trying to reconcile that. They're trying to reconcile the fact that he would, be with her and marrying her. But the good part is I continue with wellness coaching. I have done a lot of personal growth just with different videos and podcasts and reading. And I have an amazing group of friends. And I have a great therapist who gives me great things to work on every month to better myself. My family is supportive. They rallied around me immediately. and are glad that I'm safe and I'm happy. My anxiety has gone down. My depression has gone down where I don't feel, and this is not clinical depression. This is just an overall sadness. I felt depressed and sad and anxiety ridden all the time because I wasn't sure what was going to happen next. And he didn't ever hit me, but I didn't know what was going to happen next. How was he going to belittle me? How was he going to embarrass me? We would talk before we went to parties, and I would say, could you, like today, could you like not share this story about us that's it's kind of intimate or whatever? And he would do it, and he'd be like, oh, no, 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 I won't do that. And then I'd walk up to him talking with someone, complete strangers, and he would be sharing the most intimate details of our life. And I remember one time it was at a Christmas party, and I this is how they make you look like the crazy person is I walked up and he was like, "Oh, honey, come meet so and so and so and so." I was just telling them about this intimate thing, right? And I said, "Oh my God." And I walked away. I said that. I was just like, I had this stone face and I said, "Oh my God." And I walked away. So what happens then is, you were so embarrassing. I can't believe you did that. And that's a way for you to look crazy. And it's just part of all the manipulation and all that. So therapy has been instrumental for me, but also really good friends who are wise, who either go to therapy or they are very introspective or they really work on themselves as well and can give sound advice rather than just, yeah, screw that guy. There's a time and a place for that, believe me. I will take all that all day long. But there's also the part where you want your friends to say, I know you're hurting, but it's not always going to be this way. And you did the right thing. And if I felt like something was like I did something wrong, they would be able to say, this is normal. This is normal the way you're feeling. You're feeling normal that you would feel ashamed or sad or all those things. So, and one of the other things that I do is we were going to go to Paris in 2020 for our 20 I'm sorry, for our 30th wedding anniversary, but 2020 happened. And so then when the world started opening back up later on, we didn't go, and there was always a reason. We there was always money reasons. We had plenty of money. We always had plenty of money, but if it wasn't for what he wanted, which was a new truck and a new car, and to do the trips he wanted to do, I wanted to do certain trips, and he would say no, and then no, we can't afford that, and then he would say, oh, I think I'm gonna do this trip with my friends, and it would be like an expensive trip somewhere, and I was so confused about that. But that's just part of it. It's part of the manipulation. It's part of it's only about them. Remember, narcissism is only about them. It's what they want, not what you want. You're not a team. They're going to tell you that you're not a team player, but they don't also play on the team, because you're not being agreeable. If only you would be agreeable, then we would be team players. You would be a team player if you would just agree with me and do these things. So I did do that for a long time. That's how I abandoned who I was. So when I found out about the girlfriend, I decided I didn't want him to pay me out for the house any longer, and I wanted us to sell the house and be done with it. And so we did that, and we split the proceeds, which worked out well for him because then he got to move in with her, and somehow that was my fault because I drove him into her arms or something stupid like that, and we split the proceeds. And thankfully, because of really good money management and things that I had done to help our budget, we didn't have much of a mortgage left, and so we were able to split the proceeds. In Nevada, you split 50-50, and I bought myself a trip to Paris. I put the rest in the bank, but I bought myself a trip to Paris, and I'm going to go celebrate my new life in Paris. It makes me sad that it wasn't him who I'm going with. I'm going with an amazing group, but it makes me sad. You know, there's a grieving that happens when you leave a 33-year relationship. There's a death of a marriage. It's really sad. It really makes me sad. But I'm going to go celebrate that I no longer have to be in pain. And I no longer have to think about what I've done wrong that day. And I am held accountable by me and by God. I'm a woman of faith. And the thing is, I'm also human. And I don't always do things perfectly. I'm not expected to do things perfectly, and I don't do things perfectly. And I give myself grace for the hard days, the days where I probably did things the way people thought I shouldn't have. Maybe I was too vocal about the divorce, but I wanted to be in control of my destiny, because when you've been controlled for so long, you want to be the one who controls the narrative. And so I started controlling the narrative. We were going to post on social media, that's the time we live in, that we were getting a divorce, and we were going to do it when we got divorced. But I decided I wanted to control the narrative. And so a couple things I found out. And so I decided I wanted to control the narrative. And so I posted something that we were moving forward on our own. We were separated. And then after that, I posted some pictures that we got divorced. And from there, I controlled the narrative of my life. And that's what I'm still doing. There's a freedom in that. I'm still healing. There's still a lot to heal. There's 33 years of narcissism and gaslighting to unravel, and a lot of grace I need to give myself for not seeing it sooner, because we see it when we see it. We cannot shoulda, coulda, woulda ourselves. We can't beat ourselves up for not seeing it sooner. We saw it when we saw it. Okay? So don't beat yourself up. So that's where I'm at, you guys. What you're going to hear this season on my podcast is hope, and stories of hope, stories of people who have been in similar situations, stories of people who have gone through widowhood and abuse and health challenges and terrible things, but that they've come out the other side, or they are still in the mess, but they're on their way up towards hope. And that's what I want you to hear. That in all of this, look, we had to get down into that pit to see the light, because without dark, we don't know what light is. My story is one of hope and freedom. You can be free from being oppressed and from being lied to and from being gaslit and manipulated and controlled. If any of this resonates with you, I will put some resources below. Also, my YouTube channel will have some resources. I'll share some videos. There's tons of stuff to read about and listen to. Tons of stuff on YouTube. Tons of stuff on Instagram. You deserve to be in a relationship where you are not feeling sad all the time. 33 years is hard to condense down to such a short time. I love you guys. I'm so glad you're here. You're going to hear so many stories of hope this season, and know that my story, I feel like my story is just beginning. Okay. 2023, I walked into 2023 with such hope that it's going to get so much better than it was. And guess what? It is. It's so much better than it was. I'm so happy. I'm so hopeful for my future. The sky is the limit, that is for sure. I'm still doing therapy. I still have my great friends. I still have my family to help me. And I'm going to continue to bring the dark into the light because that's the only way that we can say me too to each other, or my gosh, that's happening to me, or that did happen to me and I thought I was the only one. I hope you'll be listening this season to the stories of hope because there's a lot of great stories coming. And I'm so glad you were here to listen to my story. I'm Laura, and that's where I'm at.